Welcome to all the students of class 7. This is Karnesh Misra, subject teacher of His.ch from Lakshmi Prasad Memorial Public School, Gola Bazar, Gorakhpur. Dear students, today I am going to start first chapters of the history. The captions or the title of the chapter is When, Where and How. So let's start with an introductory note. After completing 6 chapters from geography, we are starting first chapters of the history. So let's start the chapters with an introductory note. Dear students, Indian history is generally divided into the ancient, medieval and modern periods on the basis of changes in social, political and economic organizations and in ideas and beliefs. Each of these periods has certain distinctive features determined by the various developments recorded in different walks of life during that period. So, Indian history is divided into the ancient, medieval, and modern periods on the basis of change in the social, political, and economics, organizations, and in the ideas and beliefs. Each of these periods has certain distinctive features determined by the various developments recorded in the different walks of life during that period. The actual durations of these periods the actual durations of the periods which is historically regarded as medieval is not the same everywhere. While the medieval period in Europe lasted between 600 and 1400 CE, the medieval periods in India extended from the 700 to 1700 century, which is exactly 1000 years. It is further subdivided into the early medieval period from 700 to 1200 CE and the late medieval period from 1200 to 1700 CE respectively. So the medieval period, major historical trends. History covers the expected questions, when, where and how. So before we start discussing the various events and developments that took place during the medieval period of Indian history, let us try to develop an insight into the political, social and economic and cultural changes that characterize in this period. The initial phase of the period under study was marked by the emergence of regional kingdom throughout throughout the country. A powerful group of peoples rose to the prominence during these periods, primarily as warriors and kings in the northern and central India. These people, these peoples came to be called the Rajputs. The Rajputs claimed their descent from either the solar family Suryavansa or lunar family Chandravansa. However, there were 4 clans which claimed that they had not descended from either of these two families but had originated directly from the sacrificial fires conducted by the sage Vasishtha on the peak of the present day Mount Abu. So they claimed descent from Agni Kula. These included the Prathihars and the Chauhans, the Solankis and the Powers. These 4 clans played an important role in the history of these periods. So the establishment of the Delhi Sultanates following the arrivals of the Turks from the northwest and settings up of the Mughal empires were the 2 most important political events of the periods. Feudalisms or the royal practices of granting land to nobles in lieu tributes and military help was a significant political trends of the periods. The important social trends of the medieval age included the proliferations of new castes, the rise of tribal groups with their own distinctive identities and customs and sharp destinations between the rural and urban areas, the flourishings of trade and introductions of the more systematic assessments of the land revenues were the significant economic trends of the medieval period. In the spiritual sphere, this period marked the emergence of new forms of Hinduism and Islam, which were more assimilating in nature. Religious reforms in the forms of the Bhakti and Sufi movements triggered some of their major developments of the periods. In the sphere of architecture, distinctive styles and technologies arose, thereby adding to the grandeurs and magnificence of the medieval India. In all, widespread cultural diversity was the hallmarks of these periods, which went on to enrich India's cultures and history. Key changes over the thousand years, historians use the different types of sources to learn about the past, depending on the periods of their studies and the natures of their investigations. Investigations sources such as coins, inscriptions, paintings, architectural remains, and textual records serves as the link to the past. Medieval Indian history has left behind a rich legacy of archaeological and literary sources which help us reconstruct the history of the period. So let's study about the archaeological sources which gives us informations about our past. Archaeological is the study of history through the material remains of human life. Archaeological source may include monuments, painting, sculptures, inscriptions, and coins. So these are the things which comes under the study of archaeological sources. Once again, it includes monuments, painting, sculpture, inscriptions, and coins. Monuments and building. Historical monuments and buildings such as palaces, temples, forts, mosques, tombs, towers, clock towers, etc., help to reconstruct the past in many ways. To begin with, these buildings reveal the architectural style and cultural influence of the periods. The famous monuments of the medieval periods include the Humayun's tomb, Qutub Minar, mosques such as Kuwait al-Islam and Jama Masjid, Red Fort in Delhi and Agra. Taj Mahal, Salaswara temples, etc. They provide invaluable information regarding the architectural skills of the workers, the materials used to construct these monuments, and the mode of transportation in use, besides the cultural and religious belief prevalent during the period under the study. Now let's study about the inscription as the source of the history of the ancient India. Inscriptions are writing engraved on solid surface including rocks, metals, pillars and stone tablets and other structures written in various languages and scripts. These inscriptions record royal proclamations, religious instructions and gifts to temples, people or villages. Many of these available even today are attributed to the Rajput and Chola rulers. Besides, their are several inscriptions on the walls of Taj Mahal, the Red Fort, and other palace walls. All these inscriptions usually tells us about the social and economic conditions of the peoples and sometimes even provide dynastic list of the kings or their genealogies. Is it clear to you that what is the role of inscriptions in providing the source, providing the information about the past? Now let's study about the coin, one of our most archaeological sources which gives us information about the past. Coins gives us invaluable information about the polity and economy of the period. The writings on the coins generally convey the names, date of issues, titles, and portraits of the kings, and occasionally even their dynastic emblems. Coins throw light on art, religions, economic conditions, trade, etc. The compositions of the metals or alloy used in the coins tells us about the scientific advancement attained during the corresponding period. Moreover, the distant palaces where the coins are excavated gives an idea about the extent of the empire. The sultans of Delhi, the Mughal emperors, the Cholas, and other regional rulers issued many coins. Painting and sculptures. Painting and sculptures also gives important information about the medieval Indian history. The paintings reflected themes of religions, forest, life, court scenes, mythological stories, lifestyles of peoples, and food habits of the times. Different style of miniatures painting also evolves during this period. The bronze sculptures of the Nataraja, the dancing Shiva, is representatives of the sculptures produced during the period. The sculptures were made of bronze, wood, or stone and depicted figures of gods and goddesses, queens and kings. Let's study about the literary sources. Much of our understandings of the medieval period of India, much of our understandings about the or in regard of the medieval period of Indian history comes from the plethora of written sources. So these includes both religious and non-religious sources available in the form of biographies and autobiographies. Court chronicles at times called namas in Persians and historical accounts by pilgrims, traders and royal ambassadors. The literary sources usually categorized into indigenous and foreign writings covering subjects such as religions, economic, politics, culture, etc. A variety of languages such as Persian, Sanskrit, Arabic, Urdu, and many other regional languages were used to produce this bulk of writings. It is interesting to note that paper was still not in use in the Indian subcontinent during the early medieval period. Palm leaves, bark of bird trees, and animal skins were used as materials for writing. It was only in the medieval period that papers became the main writing material. Okay. So literary source of the medieval history can be divided into following categories. There is first one is the court chronicles. A number of scholars belonging to these periods wrote about the history of dynasties of the periods. Dynasties of the periods. These are known as the court chronicles. One well-known examples of court chronicles is Abd al Qadir, Badanis, Baranis, or Muntakhav ut Tuareg, or the selections of chronicles a work in the three volumes that deals with the regions of Babur, Humayun and Akbar, Baranis, Tariq, Feroz Shahi, an account of Firoz Shah Tughlaq region is another famous court chronicles which describes the histories of Delhi Sultanate. Ras Tarangani, authors by written by Kallana in the 11th century, provides us information about the history of the ruler of Kashmir. Okay. So many rulers of this period appointed historians in their courts to record the events of their rule. Usually, historians travels with the rulers and recorded the events. Abdul Fazl's Akbar Nama is a fine examples of such a works. Its third volume, Aine Akbari, highlights the salient features of Akbar's mode of governance and statistical reports of his empires. The number of foreign travelers, scholars, pilgrims, and royal ambassadors visited the courts of different rulers during the medieval period and left behind accounts of the periods. Apart from writing about the rulers and his administrations, they also focus on life of the common peoples. Abner Battuta, the Moroccan travelers and scholars visited India during the rule of Tughlaqs and wrote the Rihala travels. This book tells us about the geography of India. Al-Bruni Tariq Hind, written around 1030 CE, when the accompanied Muhammad Ghaznavi on his campaigns into the northern India, is regarded as one of the finest foreign accounts of the medieval India. Now let's study about the autobiographies and biographies. Biographies including Prithvi Raja Rasho by Chandra Bardai and Humayun Nama by Gulbadan Begum, as well as autobiographies such as the Babar Nama, also known as Tujuk and Babri in Turkish, and Jahangir's Tujuk Jahangiri in Persians were written during these periods. The Babarnama provide detailed information about the flora and fauna of Hindustan, while the Tujuk-i-Jahangiri provides a fascinating insight into the court politics during this period. Besides giving details of the emperor's personal life, Firoz Shah Tughlaq also wrote his own autobiography titled Fatah Firoz Shahi. Okay, writing of the foreign travelers. Let's just have a detailed information about it or to study the writing of foreign travelers. The writing of many European travelers like Dorothy Barbosa and Domingo Piazza of Portugal, Ralph Fitch, William Hawkins, and Sir Thomas Roe of England, Niccolo Conti and Niccolò Manucci of Italy, Bernard and Tavernier of France also serve as valuable sources for the history of the medieval period. Athanasius Nictane's visit to India is described in his books The Journey Beyond the Journey beyond three seas. See the early Riyas and Ottoman admirals was another important foreigners who travels to the India and other countries are recorded in the books Mirat ul Memalik or the Mirror of Courtier or a mirror of the countries. Okay, religious literature. The medieval period of Indian history was also the period of bhakti and Sufi movements, which spread across the subcontinent and subcontinents and contributed to some fundamental change in the social and cultural social and cultural outlook of the peoples at large. The saints and sages associated with these movements composed poems, songs, dohas, etc. Thank you for listening me. Have a great day to all of you. More we will discuss in the next phase of the videos. This one is the second part of the first chapter of the history. When, where, and how. More we come to know in the next phase of video. Thank you for listening me. Have a great day to all of you. Take care on your health. Continue your study. Avoid gatherings, people, and always use mask whenever you go outside. Thank you for listening me once again.